Hello everyone and welcome back to that one playthrough of Kerbal Space Program. I am Kyle once again, and you join us staring at the purple jewel that is Eve. Yes, that's because last time we accepted some contracts, or rather some administrative policies that were going to involve landing probes and exploring further into the depths of the purple giant. Now you'll notice Eve looks very dark and gloomy, and that is because of the exploratory mods that we have installed to make it so that we have to actually explore and discover bodies, so we know very little about Eve. It says atmosphere depth 60 kilometers. I think it might be lying to me legitimately, because it's trying to convince me that I can get closer than I actually can. I'm pretty sure it's still at like 80, 90, 100 kilometers, give or take somewhere in there. But the reason we are emphasizing this at the intro is because the first vehicle that we're going to launch is going to be headed there with a couple of landing probes. Hopefully they make it through the atmosphere okay. But in order to do that, we got to line it up properly as far as having the proper transfer window. So I'm going to zoom on out here, and we got a transfer window set up. It's supposed to happen in 168 days. 5 hours, 21 minutes. Now, I'm just going to speed up time here. There we go. That's a nice consistent tick down of days, and it is slowing down because Wanderer has arrived to destination at Moon. Oh, hold on. Quick detour. Oh, zoomed too far. Okay, the Wanderer is headed down here. This was a rare crater. I don't remember what I'm doing down here, but I'm assuming I'm collecting science. Okay. Since we're here, we're just going to try and collect science real quick. See if we can get some stuff. Okay, good. 64. Let's go ahead and take that. Transmit away. We're on the pole, which means we're going to get absolutely garbage sunlight for charging our batteries. Yeah, so we have the contract, or the strategy, I should say, to boldly go 2, which means new biomes now give us 25,000, which is a huge bonus. So really beneficial, obviously, to just have this thing keep wandering around. Get the battery charged up again, and do the same thing for temperature. Bada bing, bada boom, 26 science. That brings us up to a total of 329. We can actually do quite a bit with that. I think we might be able to get like 2 other new modules out of the research tree. All right, let's do seismic data one more time, because we can keep collecting that a few times to continuously stack it up, get all the juicy data out of it. Perfect. And now we're at 346. Excellent. All right, we'll bring up the biomes one more time. The other thing I want to make sure I grab is the bigger science here and now. Let's see, landed on moons, mountains, poles, polar ice craters, exotic craters. So there's a few spots we can still go. Where I'm down here. So yeah, we are way down here at this location. This is a rare crater, and I need to find, let's see, moons, mountains. Apparently I haven't done the mountains. There's lots of highlands. What does a mountain look like? Notable craters. I have not done notable craters. So I could head south, and I could hit notable craters and the pole. And then you got polar ice craters down here too. So realistically, I can hit 1, 2, 3 more biomes pretty easily with this thing. Sounds like a pretty good idea to me. All right, so the first one, we're going to go for this notable crater. All right, so I just set a waypoint for that crater. I'm gonna set the activation, and then we just got a bon voyage it here. Current waypoint, route found. All right, so back to the task at hand. We were speeding up time to try and get to the point where we could get that even counter. Now, what's going to end up happening is we're going to end up hitting the next time the Wanderer hits something before we get to that point to begin with. Okay, the Wanderer has reached its next location again. This is not what I planned on focusing for this entire episode, but apparently it wants to steal the show. We're at 346 science, and with the snap of my fingers... Okay, I was going to say with the snap of my fingers I would get a whole bunch of science and be done with all the science in this spot, but then a shadow creeped up because there's a mountain there. And eventually we're going to get to the dark side of the moon, which seems to be coming right about now. So the Wanderer is actually going to go sleepies for a little bit. And just like that, our space program has laid dormant for about 160 days, which in Kerbal time frame I feel like is still like half a year, which is a-okay because we wanted to get lined up perfectly so we can have a nice efficient transfer to do our first celestial body transfer around the sun, or Kerbal, I should say. It's not the sun, it's Kerbal. Yeah, so Eve will actually be the first object we go and explore outside of the Kerbin system, which is going to be fun. All right, so the vehicle we're sending is called the Purple Kerbal Eater. That's my nickname for Eve, because you send Kerbals there and you don't get them back. But we're not sending any Kerbals this time around. we're gonna go ahead and roll this out to 7 hours. That's a pretty long rollout. We'll go ahead and speed that up because realistically we're not at the window anyways. I'm gonna line up the launch as close to that as possible. I'll probably keep it within a half a day or so, which is 6 hours in JNSQ. Because again, with all the failure mods I've got attached to this, I want to make sure that I don't have any failures while the thing's just floating around in space. Now, something else we can do with the 416 science that we have, I'm gonna go with the heavy launchers because we're not doing a lot of stuff where I feel like I need this yet, and we should get it quick. Okay, and without further ado, we'll finally get to the moment we've all been waiting for. The launch of this behemoth, which is undoubtedly the largest rocket I've ever launched in this playthrough. It's probably one of the largest I've ever launched, period, just because JNSQ requires such bigger scales. This thing should have plenty of power to get off the pad, considering it's got 8 of those large scale boosters. The kickbacks now, I cannot remember if I tested those or not, which means this could be a catastrophic failure if one or more of those were to not fire off correctly. That also being said, one of the engines in the middle stages, I cannot remember exactly which one, is also a test, or rather it's a further test. I think I've launched it one other time, but I want to make sure it's suitable before we utilize those specific pieces on some Kerbal missions, which are coming shortly. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and fire this bad boy up. Oh yes, and then we're going to go ahead and release the clamps, and yeah, it would seem that not all of the boosters fired. In fact, of the 8, 6 of them failed. 25% have succeeded. It's a pretty terrible success rate when you think about it. So we're gonna have to let those run out of fuel before I can, cease this mission. But at least the rocket is still standing and we'll be able to recover it. So I'll be back in just a few seconds with a brand new one. Okay, bye. All right, and we're back. Now, some things I did not consider if there was a failure is now we are actually 6 to 7 days past the launch window because I had to build a whole new rocket, so that's a problem. But I'm hoping that it'll be okay. Now, other things that I did correct, because I think this is the reason it didn't succeed, is we didn't have pretty pictures and logos on it. So now that that's on it, this thing should be good to go. All right, let's fire this bad boy up. Oh, there's still 2 failures? Screw it, we're going for it. It's not working, And this one's tipping over. Yep, sounds about right. Okay, I should not have released it. That's all the expensive bits down there that are currently dropping the frame rate. Oh no, the expensive bits might survive. That would be very good. That's going to destroy everything in its path. Maybe it'll get stuck. Is it getting stuck? It looks like it might be getting stuck. No, it's trying. No, it's really trying to go places. It might be stuck finally. Okay. Well, we'll just let that burn out for a little bit again, and well, I suppose we'll go for round 3 with a really, really terrible launch window. Okay, 3rd time is officially the charm, I hope. So, yeah. Anyways, thrust is all the way up, SAS is on, let's give her a go. Everything seems to be firing appropriately. Yes, that's liftoff. We've cleared the tower. That's good, okay. Thrust is improving, thrust to weight ratio that is, 1.6, and climbing. I'm gonna go ahead and let it get to a good 1,000 meters, and we're gonna try and see if we can steer this bad boy. Oh my god, this thing is unbearably horrible to control. Holy mackerel, it wants to wobble a lot. Oh, okay. Yeah, just looking at the nav ball is all you need to know is how much it's bouncing around, but now that we're getting some velocity, it's actually starting to be a little healthier. Okay. Let's see if we can get it right on east facing, and if I get it to go right up with prograde, we should be good. I think it's gonna be pretty healthy. It's not lining up great, to be honest. Let's try and get a little bit more of a southward pull because it's not on that line. Oh man. Okay. All the boosters are gone. Those should separate. Oh wow, that was great. Except for the one that didn't. One of them didn't fire very correctly as far as the separatrons. But what can you do? Okay, I'm bringing thrust down just because I want to get our angle of attack down here a little bit, because we've got a lot of apoapsis height and a good amount of altitude. So I'm going to go ahead and just take stability assess to normal. Let's take thrust back up and see if we can just get this thing cranking with some more horizontal velocity, because I think we're pretty safe now. Yeah, those boosters got us going pretty well. Okay, this feels a lot more healthy now. These core thrusters, they are trying to do some good work. Oh, thrust limit. What the heck? Okay, hold on. Get these all the way up. Yep. I didn't realize those were down like that. Is there 4 of them? Or there's 5 of them. I'm missing one. Where's the last one? Maybe I did get them all? I don't know. They're going though. Okay, keep going. We need lots of horizontal velocity though. Horizontal is the name of the game, and honestly at this altitude I'd rather get rid of the excess weight on this. Gonna reveal the nice pretty probe we've got on top here. There's a lot of shenanigans going on, so I'll get to explaining that in just a second. Hopefully this thing does pretty well. Okay, now these are just straight up skipper. Oh yeah, these have got some power. These have got some power. Oh, I hope this has got enough to get into orbit. I kind of feel like I may have gone a little too excessive on the burn angle here. I think we're doing okay. Periapsis height is climbing pretty rapidly. Might be a pretty smooth transition actually to orbit. Oh, I love the color on those engines. A lot of engineering differences compared to previous rockets. Okay, and we're at 7-8 minutes to apoapsis, which is good. That means we can go ahead and just kind of float and coast a little bit. All right, so we're just gonna whip this thing into position, and while it's doing so, I think I had gotta find out where I put the solar panels on this doohickey. Oh, there they are. We'll extend that one, and then there's another one here. Please come over here, window. Thank you very much, Extenderoni Zamboni. All right, so we've got a couple of solar panels. Now, there are some other solar panels you'll see. These are actually the lander probes. They look like little cones, and that's by design. There's a heat shield on the bottom, some batteries, a whole crap ton of science, and a parachute on top. So when they get to Eve, we're just going to start deploying those little probes all over the planet. And hopefully they land in random biomes and we get lots of different science. There are 4 of those on there, and we need to land on 3 different biomes in order to successfully complete the contract that we have for Eve. Okay, gonna do a nice quick burn here. I'm gonna use up all the fuel. I'm not gonna waste anything in any of these stages because we want to be as efficient as possible. I'm not really gonna care about this thing staying in orbit and becoming quote-unquote trash, just because I know for a fact with the 3 attempts we've had to take and the time we've wasted, we have missed our transfer window considerably. Also, we're in orbit now. That's a thing that just happened. Okay, now I'm not going to go into detail on how to do a transfer window to go or a Hohmann transfer specifically to go to Eve. There are plenty of guides on the interwebs and on YouTube for that sort of thing. I'm just going to do it the way it should be done, which is to start decelerating relative to the orbital velocity and direction of Kerbin itself, which means we're going to burn on the light side right about here. Think if this is 90 degrees relative to the shadow, we're going to go about 45, so we're going to start it there. We might end up moving it a little bit, but if we burn this direction, it's going to start to decelerate us, again, relative to the velocity of Kerbin, around its orbit of Kerbal. And as you can see there, it starts to drop us down. We're gonna go like this, and we're gonna set our target to Eve. So after much disappointment, I haven't been able to find a transfer that actually gets me in close proximity of Eve because of the fact that we missed it. So I'm gonna go ahead and make another one that happens again in 331 days from this point. That's pretty long ways away. So this vehicle is gonna stay in orbit for a long time. I think with the mods I have for failures, that shouldn't be a problem as long as I don't fly the vehicle. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and just return to the Space Center. As long as this thing just floats around in orbit and minds its own business, we shouldn't have any failures and there shouldn't be any issues. Which leads us to our next endeavor, or something along those lines. This is the beginning of a new space station we're gonna put into orbit of Kerbin, and it's actually going to be built in the orbit of Kerbin and then eventually transferred over to the moon. Now the reason for that being is because of all the mods that we've got installed in terms of life support, in terms of the fact that this is JNSQ and it just takes more to go places in terms of mass and distributing that mass. I want that space station to be built in Kerbin's orbit. We're going to transfer it to the moon, and that's what's going to lead us to being able to have our moon missions to land on the surface of the moon. So without further ado, this is the Bill Kerbin Lunar Orbital Research Station. This is the core of the vehicle. It's going to be launched, and then there will be several other pieces that get launched that are going to meet up with it in orbit. So without any hesitation here, go ahead and get this baby off the ground, and this thing should get into orbit pretty easily. We've got some very well tested rockets down here. There's nobody on board of this. It's all powered and flown by robotics. It's got its own core on it, so this should be pretty easy. Again, the only thing that this has to do is get to orbit, so let's try and ditch as much of this weight as we possibly can. What we can start to do, since we are at a good enough altitude, we'll extend a solar panel or two here just to make sure that we've got electric charge. But yeah, you can see this is definitely a space station. We've got a little capsula for viewing, lots of battery power. There's a little habitation module in here, as well as a little module for the crew cabin, and then we'll have some more segments that get attached on there. You'll notice on the sides there are some docking ports. We're going to have the lunar lander, or mooner lander I should say, as well as another side over here that's going to house some additional fuel tank systems, so that way once we get to the moon, it should be pretty easy to do several missions down for a lander with the crew once they get there. This should be pretty good now to get into orbit here. Okay, we are at, this is actually a pretty awkward orbit. 182 at our current altitude. We're gonna, yeah, 182 at the highest and 106 at the lowest. So I'm actually going to bring this prograde, and then I'm going to burn this out a little bit further, but that'll give us some room underneath it orbit wise for the next segment. Now before we finish today, we're going to make sure we get at least one of the segments attached to this. While this is in orbit, we're going to go ahead and extend all these solar panels nice and beautiful, like just get all these extenderoni like that. No, wait, I don't know what I just did. What did I just click on? What was that thing I did? Auto strut? Did I disable it? I don't know. Okay, so we have a quote-unquote station ready to go. Okay, so I made a slight error when launching the next portion of the station here. It's got a moon lander, and unfortunately, the dummy in charge of recording that footage did not hit the record button. So everyone give a shout out to the dummy who did that, or rather didn't do that. One thing I can do though is I can detach this bottom portion here, the kind of orbital thrusting portion of the main part of the station, and then this piece down here is actually going to be the excess fuel as well as RCS control systems as kind of a tug system, I guess you could say, for the station to move parts around. It's going to attach over to this docking port on this side. I am going to speed this up just to take it around a complete orbit, because I want to do this in the day. Oh, that was too far. Okay, well, let's do another one. Darkness. I want to do this in the daylight, so I want to get as much daylight as possible, and I pushed the button the wrong way again. So let's try this for the third or fourth time now as terms of orbits. We'll get there. Okay, there we go. Daylight. Okay, in here should be, yeah, probe core. We're gonna control from here, dock from there, switch to the bottom half, turn on RCS, start to drift away from the main part of the station, give it some clearance, and we're gonna end up setting this one over here to our target. Sure we don't get too close to the whole thing. All right, there we go. I think we're connecting. Come on, there we go. Perfect. Woo! All right, now we'll just double check. This should have all of its fuel, because I believe these are set to no crossfeed maybe. Then let's fill up all of these small RCS tanks. Boom, okay. All of those RCS tanks topped off. We're gonna try and flip to retrograde, and this thing is gonna get out of the way, and then we're gonna let it go, disappear, retrograde, burning off all of its velocity so that it crashes back into Kerbin. All right, so This is the beginning of our Mooner orbital station that's going to be doing some research over at the moon. We're going to have another piece that's going to have the crew come up, and it's going to be kind of the tug portion that's going to push this all to the moon. This should have plenty of life support to last quite a long time. That tug portion also has the return vehicle that they will use to come back from the moon, and then this whole section is going to stay there for future missions, so we can refuel this section. We can still have some life support available, some crew cabin space, and then a lander that just has to be refueled and could be reused as well. All right, the first portion of our Mooner adventure is a go. We'll also be making sure that we get that research vehicle on its way to Eve when that transfer window lines up. But until then, I'm Kyle. This has been that one playthrough of Kerbal Space Program, the JNSQ playthrough. I hope to see you in the next episode. Until then, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you then.